Call this meeting to order. We're here to discuss and consider for action the 6-county border boundary joint ordinance proposal that we have been discussing off and on for the last several months. All right. Commissioner Zimmerman, do you have anything? I think you invited David to comment.
Yes.
So
Hear it from our P&Z people and our administrator.
Cool. Dan for the record. And Tricia's here from P&Z. So I have limited information. We received a whole bunch of information from that early meeting that I was not part of. And so we have some draft ordinances and a whole bunch of maps that explain a good portion of what's being proposed here is trying to come up with a meaningful, effective, legal way to describe the boundaries between particularly the 6 counties. With us being the lion's share of the whole stretch, which is can be concerning in that we have the most to bear on it, but we also all the counties have much of this area is federal ground, state ground, large timber company ground, and so the effect of moving the line or defining where that line now is will have minimal or no effect on those property owners. It will change which portions of their property are being taxed in which county, and there's some amount where those counties are going to get more land and other portions we're going to get more land and be taxing for more land. I think in my discussions with our contracted surveyor, Rob Stratton, who's definitely our regional expert for this, he's been part of this discussion with the northern counties off and on it's actually been a discussion for some numerous years, but finally they put together some action to make some changes here. So he wasn't, his input was mostly from a surveyor standpoint, which was good. It's what we asked him for, and what's being proposed from that aspect is legitimate, it is well deserved and needed. Anytime we get into a legal description issue, you have to have a good basis for what you're drawing your legal description from, and that's always consistently been a problem along this border. Is there's either really old information or super old and vague information on where you actually pull from, and that becomes problematic from a legal sense. So from a surveying standpoint, it makes great sense. It really defines and pins it down to now we're going to have a border you can reach out to and definitively say that's where my property starts and where your property ends. So from that aspect, it seemed to be all very well done. The flip side of that is the political side of things, and this is where I'm probably drawing a blank on not enough information, because it wasn't part of the previous conversations with other counties and with other people, and what is this effect having on the citizens of Kootenai, the citizens of Benawa and Latah and Clearwater, and how much of that property is affecting those private property owners and to what degree. And then I don't know what kind of noticing, what kind of town hall meetings, what kind of discussions they've had with those property owners to explain to somebody, hey, we're going to decide to move the line, and now another 30-year property is going to be in some different county. And is that a problem or is it not? And for some property owners, it may not be a problem, and for other property owners, it may be a significant problem. And that's where I'm kind of like, we don't know. And so before you go make a decision to make something happen, I think we need to make some effort to know that. Beyond just the natural, we're going to send out notices and put some notices in the paper for a hearing and hope people figure out what we're doing and show up for that hearing. This is a larger scale deal. It's not a subdivision where you can notify the neighbors and they have a time to decide whether that affects them or not. People are going to see 4 notices in the legal notice in the paper that says we're changing the boundary. The people out in Cataldo and the people down in Clarkia may not know how directly that might affect them. And so I don't know. I think the answer is we probably need to wait a bit or go figure out which properties are being affected and to what degree, and then determine, do we want to have some other method of trying to reach out to those property owners to give them a heads up or explanation or get their input on how dramatically that. I don't know if any of these, like I said, I just don't know. Is there anything dramatic? Because I can foresee if somebody's property was, partially in now, but now all of a sudden 2/3 of it's going to be in Kootenai County.
I think they discussed that. That's one of the things.
What is,
That
does
they
that
did.
mean something to them? And those people should know that so that they can come voice their opinion about it.
I think he did that, right?
That's my understanding.
I understand they did do that. He commented on, there was one property, I believe, in Cataldo area, and they could choose to stay in, is that what, you remember that? They could
Don't
choose
recall
to
that.
Okay,
And so that's where part of this is. I don't have that information to give you the
Have you
reverse
talked-
information of whether it sounds good.
have you talked to the guy that's put this into it?
No.
Okay.
So Rob and I both thought that would be a valid next step is for us to go meet with them or hear a presentation from them or go meet with somebody in particular to try to get some of that information. And that's mostly more, I think Rob was more like, hey, from the surveying standpoint, it works for me. However they decide to do it works for everybody. So it may be just me go meet with somebody and try to get that, so we can bring some clarity to our what we're doing. We're not all of a sudden going to adopt something that dramatically affects somebody. Is my worry.
Okay.
Because we didn't have those conversations, we didn't have those meetings, and we didn't have those assurities for those property owners.
It sounds like you should probably talk to the sponsor and see,
Yeah.
have him describe what meetings have taken place.
Exactly. Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion.
Okay.
So
Should we table this for another week, and can you contact him?
I contact them and find out availability, and then we
Okay.
get to them.
Let's table it for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that way we have time to do that, and to, if in fact what he says is not satisfactory, we have time to think about what we would want to do.
I agree.
Because if it's only a handful of property owners, maybe we do a physical reach out to those property owners and make sure they're aware of how this may or may not, affect them. And if they're already been made aware of it and they're already been explained that and they're okay with it, then that gives us that better assurance. I didn't want to see us go post a notice in the paper and have a hearing in 2 weeks, and then somebody from I didn't know I was all of a sudden going to become.
Yeah, and
I didn't know this was going to dramatically affect me, and that would just be,
And I think I recall him saying there was one person from the Cataldo area that it affected, and that I think they had a choice to stay in that, but you'll have to ask him.
and that may be the remedy, because part of the remedy
Yeah.
here is that they're defining that the line can
Yeah.
zigzag on back to known points, and so if somebody decided, hey, I don't want to be in Kootenai County, or I don't want to be in Shoshone
Mhm.
County, they could re-describe it. Well, okay, well, the boundary now goes like this around their
Mhm.
property, and
I
we
think
can accommodate that desire without
that's how-
effectively changing the whole thing.
Okay.
So,
Well,
cool.
in that case, I would move to table for 2 weeks while we try and/or whatever is sufficient time to get the information.
Okay.
If, how many citizens have been informed.
Okay.
And we'll let Dan take the charge on talking to John, the sponsor, and see, because I believe John's addressed it, but I think Dan needs to hear what's been addressed.
Yes, that's correct. I'll second that.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll give you a little time to pursue that.
On another note, has anybody from our legal side reviewed these draft ordinances? I know I'm
believe
sure
the
they
prosecutor
did.
was in the first
Yes.
meeting.
Yeah, that would be, we always have them review any.
And we are also the last county to sign. All the others have reviewed and all the others have agreed. So that was something I was wanting to wait and see what Kootenai thought, but they did approve it.
Okay.
So all our sister.
Hopefully it's as simple as
Yeah.
making sure we're not gonna
Valid concerns, so we're
dramatically affect somebody that may cause us some Indian strife.
Okay,
Move forward.
all right.
That was easy.
Thank you. That was easy.
Absolutely.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for guiding us through this process. You guys are much appreciated. All right. With that, we are adjourned.